Mickey?
Ray, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for
That's
jumping
all right.
on, bro.
I'm here and I'm number 30.
You're number 30, mate.
Number 30.
You made it.
So I don't know how, I'm thinking number 30, are you scraping the bottom of the barrel now or what?
I don't know if it's scraping the bottom of the barrel or we're getting more interesting guests on board.
Yeah, good answer.
Well, thanks for jumping on, mate. Ladies and gents, welcome to Talk to Me, the show where I get my friends to talk to me. Today I've got Mick Saba. There's so much to say about you, but I think we'll get into it today, ladies and gents. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, share it around. Let's get this thing to 150 subscribers. We're at 123 at the moment, and we're just pelting away. Mick, it's good to have you on, man.
Thanks, bro.
Bro, we were just talking about kids going through school and high school and things like that, and what type of changes it can affect them with, or what type of things it can involve them with. And you were saying that you'd love seeing Christian kids go through that sort of schooling life.
Yeah, so as you've sort of filled in a few times. So Pete and I look after the high school Sunday school. I think we might have even had you in the early days. Like I've been probably helping Pete out for about 12 years now.
Yeah, I definitely would have been in there at one point.
And seeing these young guys growing up and then coming every week and then staying in the faith and staying pure, and that for me, we're talking about the experiences you had at your
At my school.
at your school, yeah. Man, and just seeing these kids just sort of grow up and just sort of keep that walk, staying on that straight path. I know some fall off. That's normal.
Of course.
You know, we all go through some tough times and whatnot, but just the fact that you're all sticking together, supporting each other, encouraging each other to live a clean life. And just seeing that with this crop that's coming through is actually really awesome to see.
Well, it's so cool to see parents actually being involved in their kids' spiritual lives. And no disrespect to any parents that have come before, but you see throughout the years, parents had their priorities set differently, you know, whether it was because they came from Lebanon, the first priority was, let's get work, let's sort out a life here. Yeah. But now that it's been 2, 3, 4 generations of Lebanese or whatever ethnicity into the country, now the priority is let's sort out our kids' spiritual lives before anything else.
Yeah.
I think that plays a massive difference.
Yeah, huge. I've got friends that are going through we're at different stages, you know. I have friends that have got kids, they're just having kids, or their kids are in primary school, and then you know, obviously my group of friends, the closest, the friends that I got that I'm sort of close with, our kids are all sort of that same age. But one thing that I sort of see in common, especially through our, you know, I guess our church environment or church
circles
setting, the circle there, is that the mentality for work has changed.
Yeah.
We still want to provide. We still want to work hard, have a good work ethic, provide, but at the same time, it's like we got to put time aside for our kids. Where my parents' generation, probably even maybe not so much yours. Like your dad's only a few years older than me.
Yeah, he got married real young.
Yeah. But there was a generation that came out here in the 70s. Man, you hear the same story. They just worked.
Yeah.
Didn't have a massive relationship or connection with their kids. Absolutely loved them because that's why they worked.
Yeah.
But the focus was provide and get a house, pay the house off, you know, if you're able to. Where our generation now is all about, you know, connecting with our kids, you know, working hard and providing financially and trying to sort of be comfortable, but at the same time having a connection with the kids.
It would have just been a different set of circumstance and scenarios back then, man. I don't think we could understand it that well.
So many left.
Just leaving your home
left their
country.
country.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. They left their country, what they were used to, what they were comfortable with. They had their friends, and just to pick up and leave and come to a beautiful country like this, not know the language.
Yeah.
My auntie, I've heard this story so many times from her. She came over with my cousin from Lebanon. He was 2. She came over, could not speak a word of English, and walked the streets, I think in Campsie somewhere, just asking for work in her very, very broken English. I think somebody taught her a few
Phrases.
Yeah.
Dead set.
Yeah, it was just a different.
And that's how she found her work.
And she found work, and he would have been 6, 7 years old, going to school on his own, coming home, and she's not there. It's a different era.
Very different. But I think another thing that does play into the whole kids being willing to sacrifice their, I guess, their reputation, their cool status at school is also the fact that they've got that bond at church. I mean, I think that's the one thing for me. For me, that was huge, was knowing that all the struggles I was going through the week with, I had people at church that were going through the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so they would have, they would encourage me once I got there. And I knew I would go to Epic or I'd go to Sunday school knowing that we could talk about these issues and, man, how do I fight it?
And it wasn't just you going through something, someone else was also going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And even like having, like they talk about, you know, in relationships, you know, you got to keep your spouse's cup full, that type of thing.
Sure.
But it's true even with your kids, you got to keep their cup full as well. You don't want them to ever feel like, in the sense that they're missing out, because they'll go to a school. Let's say they go to a school, like our kids were going to a small Christian school for a while. Moved them out, they're sort of going to a bigger school now. Still a Christian school, but still
Different.
Not as, I don't know, how do I say, not as, it's more open enrollments. So you've got different people from all walks of life, you know what I mean? They might not be full-time churchgoers like us. So they'll hear different things. And this is a whole bunch of the kids at our church that are from all different types of schools. They go to different schools. But they'll hear about their friends that have gone to a party or, you know, doing things.
They did something on the weekend. Yeah.
That we probably go, oh, it's probably not the place for you. And our kids might not want to go either. But having church on a Friday night, they don't feel like they're missing out. Their cup's being, like, we're filling their cup.
So I was about to ask that then, like, how do you as a parent now with two daughters look at that sort of scenario and say, okay, I want to be able to expose my kids to enough so that they know what's out there and what to avoid, but I also want to protect them from what's out there and I want them to avoid it.
Balance, man. And we learn from, like, we all learn off each other. So, like, my group of friends and even, like, just the church family in general, you know, you learn off each other. You sort of... one thing that we know at our age is balance is really important, because you can sort of wrap them in cotton wool.
Yep.
And then, I don't know, that can be a bit dangerous at times as well. That's my opinion.
I agree with you there.
But at the same time, I'm not saying give them all the freedom. No way, absolutely not. We still, you know, we want them to walk. We're all in the same boat. You know, we want them to walk in that, have that sort of Christian attitude about them, living a clean life and whatnot, but having a, I don't know, having a desire to do what's right, but then getting fed from their friends and getting encouragement from their friends. Do you know what I mean? That it's just a balance. It's it's hard to probably explain, but I would probably say the best way is just balance.
Well, it's interesting because it's one of those things where you're right, you can't really put it into words, but each parent knows exactly what they're trying to do. And I'm not a parent, I don't have kids, but I see the struggle it can be to raise someone, especially in today's day and age. I mean, it's so much, from when I was in school to now, it's so much different to what it was. Man. I was only there a few years back. But tech's advanced, the things that are out there are just so much more accessible.
And that's the whole point about sort of giving them a balance, like having a balance in the sense that, because there's some rubbish out there.
Yeah, man.
And you don't want them exposed to that stuff either. But at the same time, you can't say, oh, no, you can't watch TV.
Yeah.
You know,
well, actually, someone and I were talking about this a couple of weeks back. So I want to get into the Netflix thing, right? So Netflix is such an awesome service. I love it. It's great. You know, watch anything you want, anytime. But what we found with streaming was that teen TV shows have completely changed. When I was in school, teen TV shows would probably show a bit of kissing or this or that, whatever, and move on. But now it's completely hit another level where most of the teen TV shows now are MA. Because they're showing swearing, they're showing sex, they're showing it all. Like it's no holds barred, because they've got so much more freedom now with the streaming service, and they want to show the realism of high school. It's so much harder now.
Yeah, and they've got, I don't know, like the streaming networks all feel like they've got to
one up each other.
Yeah, that.
How did that conversation go with your kids? Of, listen, I know everyone at school's watching that, but this is why we're staying away from it, because that's a harder one.
Yeah, look, you know, you still got to monitor what they're watching.
Of course.
It's important.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old they are. We've got to monitor what we're watching.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll say the same. I mean, we've spoken about this before. We're not the perfect Christians,
No, of course not.
by far, but we're trying our best, right? How many times have you started a show and then gone, okay, I can't keep watching this, and then you turn it off?
100%.
I think I've got that many that have, you know,
Halfway
episode
through.
3, episode 10, and then you go,
Yeah.
okay, I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah.
And I know everyone is in the same boat, and it's just knowing that as soon as it gets to a point, you got to kind of just make that decision to go, okay, I think it's time to sort of switch.
It's really teaching kids self-denial at the end of the day. And that's harder for us now because there's so much, like we grew up not really having to decipher that a lot because it was fairly straightforward. You know, you watch these type of things, you don't watch those type of things. But now it's so much more interwoven that you sort of really need to set your standards.
And it's a shame because there's some really good
stuff out
it's
there.
like, man,
Yeah.
watch this.
But it's teaching teens self-denial, and that's massive.
Yeah, I know. I love. You know what? This is probably going off topic a bit,
Yeah.
but how good is it that they're bringing a lot of the old shows back and like the Cobra Kai?
I'm half and half on it. Like Cobra Kai,
Okay,
absolutely loving it.
but Karate Kid,
Great.
Did you love Karate Kid?
Karate Kid was one of the best shows in the world. I spent
Which Karate Kid, but 84 Karate Kid or
84.
We're talking, yeah, okay,
84.
good.
Listen,
Good.
1, 2, and 3, bro. Number 3 is rubbish, but I still love it.
And I just love, but like that you got this new generation of kids watching Cobra Kai,
And then they're going back to watch
and I'm
Karate
a
Kid.
big nerd. I'll sit down and watch Cobra Kai. And I'm like, that was in Karate Kid 1.
Yeah.
That song was in Karate Kid 2.
Yep.
Oh, that scene was
Yep.
similar to Karate Kid 3.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And my kids are just like, oh.
But then
seriously?
the problem is when they start rebooting stuff, that's absolutely terrible.
Like,
Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Not the one that just recently came out. I actually
one
really
just
liked
before
that.
that?
The one just before
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because it was just a cash grab. They didn't really take time into thinking about the writing, and it wasn't about the women. I thought they were great.
Okay.
But the writing was terrible.
all right. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
Terrible.
Okay.
Skip it. Go watch the new one.
Sometimes the remakes, we have a love for movies, and sometimes the remakes are not as good.
Yeah.
But then sometimes they kill it. You know, like they do really well. One, I love Ben-Hur. I'm not a massive fan of the movies from the 50s.
Yeah.
But I love Ben-Hur. Like, what a great
great
movie. Great movie. But then they made a
New one.
new one like 5 years ago. And I'm just watching it, and I'm sort of sitting there just on my own watching it, sort of internally being a bit critical, going, yeah, no. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good, but nothing beats the Charles Heston one. you know?
That is not a movie that should be touched. That needs to be
It's
left
just a
alone.
classic.
It's just like
classic
saying,
movie.
hey, let's remake Back to the Future. Ain't happening,
Nah,
champ.
you
Don't you
can't.
dare touch it.
You can never replace Michael J. Fox.
That's it, mate. Anyway, we got off the topic, but I want to get back into you, man. How'd you become a Christian?
Yeah, man. So going back, I'm 42, so I'm getting
22,
on.
mate. You're old.
That's what I'm saying, man. You're
You're
scraping
old,
the
bro.
bottom of the barrel now. Getting a 42-year-old, grey
People
hair,
call
couple
it.
of kids.
Listen, people call it old. I call it experience.
Okay, there you
All
go.
right, your experience.
I'll go with that.
That's it.
But you know, as a teenager, we were going to church, Catholic church. You know, mum and dad. You know, I'm so grateful for this that they gave me a fear, like a healthy fear of God from a young age. We went to church, you know, most Sundays. So we sort of grew up. We sort of grew up in the environment. But it was kind of go to church for an hour and then go home. You know,
Yep, the stock standard.
Even the homily that the priest would sort of share, honestly, in and out. I wouldn't even, it just wouldn't register. I got to probably 15, 16. One of my uncles would he started having Bible studies at his house. And I just found myself really becoming more and more interested in what the Bible said, like what was in the Bible.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but I just had a bit of a thirst for it, you know. And that sort of went on for probably 6-7 months. And my dad would take me every Wednesday night. And this guy would come and sort of, you know, give his Bible studies on different topics and everything like that. And that was good. And then, you know, years went on and still go to church on the weekends. But, you know, I was a young man, you know, doing what young men do that don't have a strong foundation in Christianity. But you know, got married, Alison and my wife and I would go to church most Sundays as well. So we'd sort of, she was raised in the Catholic Church, so we'd still go to church. We had Adria back in 2005.
Yep.
And she's probably about one, and my cousin, so my mum and her mum are sisters, grew up with her. You know, I'm a couple of years older than her. This period was probably when I started really looking into eternal matters.
Okay.
I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
Because you had a daughter?
No, because unfortunately my cousin was involved in a car accident.
Okay.
So what happened was I get a phone call like, 5 o'clock in the morning. And, when you get these phone calls at 5 o'clock in the morning, they're never good.
Yep.
So, I've come downstairs I'm thinking, what's this phone call going to be about? Dad was on the other line. And as soon as I heard Dad's voice, I thought he was going to say something about Mum. But he said, look, your cousin's been in a car accident. You've got to come to the hospital. It's not looking great. So, I've quickly gotten changed, raced down to Westmead Hospital just to sort of find out what's going on. Unfortunately, we worked together in the same home loan company that my cousin ran at the time. And I had only seen her on the Wednesday, and on the Friday night, she's driving home Friday night, to catch up with a friend. I think they were going to go watch the footy. It was back at, probably September 2005, I think it was. And yeah, she's just sort of around Silverwater, minding her own business, doing about, 30 Ks in peak hour traffic. A young driver, probably 18, 19 at the time, comes around from the other side of the road, speeding, sort of hits the bend, hits the median strip and sort of goes airborne and unfortunately hits her head on. She's doing nothing. She's just sitting there, So she goes into, the chopper had to come airlift her to the hospital, and a couple of days of just fighting. But the doctors unfortunately said, look, there's not a lot that can be done. And my poor auntie and uncle had to make, based on the doctor's recommendations, that, the life support machine was just there to just keep her breathing, I guess. So I knew that they were going to turn it off. So I got to spend probably 10, 15 minutes with her in a little room. She was just sort of laying down on the bed. And I'll never forget it, man, just sitting there, just like on a chair like this, and just staring at her. And I'm just thinking, like, this is my cousin. I had been to funerals because older people had passed away, but this is now this is close to home now. Like my cousin, similar age, knowing that she's about to pass away. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, she's about to find out what happens when you die. That, for some reason, I don't know why, it hit me. Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm not here for long.
Yeah.
It just for some reason, I don't know why, it hit me, but it just really stayed in my mind. Like, it was just something that I just sort of took in. And yeah, unfortunately, she passed away and everything. But I just remember sitting there just thinking, she's about to find out. And I know, like, because we used to speak a lot. And I know she loved the Lord. Like, she believed in the foundations of Christianity. So, like, and I get so much comfort from that.
Yeah.
She loved the Lord. Like, she believed Jesus was the Son of God. He died for her sins. I know that for sure. But just sitting there and seeing this poor young girl, 23, at, the start of her life, like, you know what I mean? Like, just like that.
Yeah.
Just because some kid, had a...
Did something dumb.
Yeah, just, speeding.
Yeah.
And it was from there. So the next few years, I just sort of started looking into it more and more. Had a mate of mine who, so I was in business at the time, in finance, and I did quite a bit of work with a mate of mine, Pete, and he was a conveyancer, and he was he's a born again Christian, and I used to always look at him and just go, man, I could just see that he had this relationship with God that I actually envied. I actually, for some reason, man, I used to just think, and sometimes I would sort of pray, just going, God, I want that relationship that he's got with you. I didn't really know what it was, but I just knew, like, he always had his Bible with him, had his Bible on the dashboard in the car. Like, we'd go out for lunch and he'd be like, oh, Mick, do you mind if we pray before we eat? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Looking around thinking, like, are you serious?
Something different.
Yeah. And so I started asking him questions, and he was so happy to just You know,
Answer 'em.
just answer. Like it was like, yeah, this is great. You know, for him it was great. And then sort of time went on, and he'd sort of like, you know, I guess at the time he was preaching the gospel, like, and I didn't even realize at the time what he was doing, but that's what he was doing. Our good friend Veronica, Danny's wife.
Yep.
She worked with him too as a solicitor. So I had gotten to know Veronica through business dealings that way. And then he said to me one day, he goes, "Oh, you know, Veronica got saved." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay." I'm thinking, what's that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? He's like, "Oh, you know, she's accepted Christ as a savior." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I've seen Veronica one day, and that was it. Veronica was just like, "Mick, you know, you gotta read this book."
She was on
Mick,
fire from that point.
yeah. And she was going through her struggles at the time and everything. But, you know, she really sort of wanted to take that time to sort of, she knew that I had a desire to know the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she gave me the dumb book.
Okay.
And every time I'd go in, "Mick, did you read it?" I was like, far out. And I'm not like, you know, a massive reader. And it's only, the dumb book's tiny.
Yeah.
You know? She's like, "Mick, just read it. Please just read it." So I'd gone in a couple of times, and and every time I'd walk up the stairs, I know that she's just gonna make eye contact, and she's gonna come straight and go, "Did you read the book?" And my answer is always, "No, I haven't gotten around to it."
So you just read it to get her off
One
your
day
back?
I just went, "I've got to read it."
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, Good Friday, I just, you know, I don't know, went to church, and we had just had Marissa, I think, at the time, so I went on my own, and I remember getting there early. It was like a 3 o'clock mass, got there early. I was like, "Okay, I'm going to read this." So next time I walk in, I can say, "Yes, I've read it." And man, I was actually in the Catholic Church, reading this book for an hour before the mass started, and that was actually, I just got it.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I just got it, and I remember making that decision, you know, in the church, just saying, "Lord,
Wow, man.
I just want to live for you." So like, I accept that, you know, Jesus died for my sins. I'm a sinner. I need a savior, and it kind of went from there. And it was, you know, it was a slow process,
Of course.
And then from there, Alison, it was great. You know, Alison got saved, and then, you know, we started to come to church, and
And then the dominoes fall.
that's it, man. And then, you know, 12, 13 years later, and got a couple of kids, and, you know,
Here we are.
here we are.
That's awesome,
That's
man.
it,
It's so cool to see, I guess, a tag team happen there, right? Between Peter and Veronica. And we had her husband on our very first Talk to Me, so check that episode out.
Danny boy.
Boy. But it's so cool to see that tag team work, right?
Yeah,
like
man.
he's just doing his thing as a Christian, telling you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And then she's on fire and just comes in and with persistence
Yeah.
every single day to a point where, let's be straight out, could have been annoying. Like her saying, "Hey, did you read it? Hey, did you read it?" And it just would have gotten
But
to you.
you can't be annoyed with her.
But that's awesome. But that's such a, someone that's
right.
willing to do that.
She persisted.
Yeah, that persistence is strong, man. And it obviously worked out. God used
Yeah,
it.
thank
And
God, man.
yeah, mate, got you guys saved. And now you're in the church, you're in Faith Baptist Church now. Your life's been dramatically changed. You finally have that relationship that you saw in Pete, his relationship with God. How much different does that make your life from what it was?
Yeah, like I remember at the time, you know, I started parting my hair. No,
I love
always
the
had the
spiky
spikes,
hair,
yeah.
Mick.
I'll never go, even though I get teased about it. But,
Love it.
just started, just I guess being mindful of, okay, I've taken this step. Now it's about, okay, I didn't want it to just be, prayed a sinner's prayer.
Yeah.
And it was great because I had my wife who was also now on fire for the Lord. Like she just, it wasn't just me on my own.
Yeah.
It was both of us. So over the years, we've been able to grow. And it was hard in the beginning. Like, we would tell our parents that, we'd drop the girls off when they were young at her mum and dad's house and say, we're just going to catch up with some friends for dinner, but we'd be going to church.
Wow, yeah.
Like, it was hard at first
of
because,
course.
It's like a big shock,
It's very different. It's
what
very
do you mean
hard.
You're Catholic,
Yeah.
But in our heart, like in my mind at the time, it's like, well, we haven't changed our religion. It's just, I've just unwrapped the Bible that was sitting on my bedside cabinet, that's been sitting on my bedside cabinet for whatever, 30 years, and I've just decided to unwrap it, open it, and actually see what's in there. Like, we still believe, like, that, Jesus died for our sins, and we just now got a relationship with him, you know what I mean? But it was hard. Like, it was all about, like, okay, things just change slowly. You know, I'm not going to sit here and go, I don't know, poured all my alcohol bottles down the sink, and it was slow,
progression.
Yeah. But as time went on, I guess you could say the Spirit would sort of do its work, and then I'd get encouraged from friends too, though.
Okay.
Through and just good preaching, just about guarding our eyes, the movies that we watch, the music we listen to, and then it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's true, that makes sense. I probably should refrain from.
I think that's the beautiful thing about Christianity, though, is that the thing that separates it from everything else is the fact that it's at your pace with God. Like, you're never going to be on the same level I'm at, and I'm never going to be at the same level you're at. We're all got our own personal relationships with God. We're all moving at our own pace. There's something that God's working in your life right now that He dealt with me years back.
It's true. It's so you said it perfectly. It's so true. Like, but your own pace.
Yeah. So, and I guess that's where the whole conversation of, hey, don't be judging one another, because mate, Ray's going through something right now that Mick sorted out years back.
Yeah.
But that's how God works. Yeah. He works on everyone at a different pace.
He does, and like I've found over the years too, he will not so much in the sense of testing, but if you're going to pray, Lord, help me be a better Christian, like, be prepared.
He's going to give it to you.
He's going to. Don't just pray it just for the sake of it. Like, if you're praying this, be prepared for some things to come your way. He's going to sit back and go, okay,
yeah,
I'm going to help you.
Something that a lot of people don't know, and I guess everyone's going to know now, it's on the internet. But prior to the accident happening, my car accident, I was praying for a while, God, show me that my faith's real.
Yeah.
I had always believed it. I'd always had full faith in it, but I wanted to know that what I was following was from me, like actually me following it, and not just because my parents had in the past. Like, I wanted to know if my faith in God, if it was tested, was legit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So then God gave me 2.5 years of testing. But you're right, he gives it to you, and I think He does it to everyone differently. Yeah, I'm not saying that if you pray that prayer, you're going to get into a car accident, life's going to go crazy. But that's what He chose to do with me, and He chose to do a lot through that, and a lot of other things that happened through that 2.5 year period. But you're right, God really does want to show you, hey, I'm legit, and I do want to live a life with you.
Yeah, like... And He'll, like, sometimes you sort of, like, and He knows our hearts. Sometimes you just want to be like, yeah, Lord, show me you're there. He'll be like, okay, I'll show you I'm there.
Yeah.
And something will just get thrown at you in life. And, like, I'll use that analogy of, I use the analogy sometimes of, like, when, you're feeling down, like, okay, if you fall over, especially if a mate is next to you, what do? They give you their hand to help you.
Help you back up?
Yeah, to get you back up. And that's kind of what God does. God's like, okay, I'm going to help you to put your trust in me, because He wants that. He wants that from
He wants you to understand it.
Yeah, like, I love it. If my kids come to me and, they genuinely need my help with something, I don't know, God gives you something for your kids that you want to help them, like, you're pleased to help them. So He's the same.
Yeah, it excites Him. It really does. Yeah. And like we said, for everyone it's different. I know that, there's some people that have said to me, man, I asked God to show me He's legit, and I was just sitting outside looking at the stars, and it just made sense. Yeah. And that's the beauty of God and how He works in everyone differently. He does it so differently.
100%. And everyone's got a different story.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a different story. Like, if you're actually, like, really, like, desiring to hear His voice or to grow, He's like, be prepared. Like, He's going to, he'll come at you.
And that's huge. Like, and I think that's huge for anyone listening to this or watching this, guys. Like, if you want God to be real and you don't know how to sort of figure it out, just ask Him.
Yeah. It's
as simple as that. Yeah. And that's the beauty of Christianity, is that it's very simple. It's simplicity.
It is. Like, you know what? It's as simple as that. Ask.
Yeah.
Just ask. Like, we all go through things, Like, we all go through issues in life, but just ask.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try and deal with it ourselves. I do it all the time. But then I'm just like, hold on, like, I've got this God who, like, no problem is too big for Him. He created the heavens, the earth, like nothing's too hard.
I think that's something that always escapes us. Like we look at our problems, we look at the issues we're going through, and we tend to forget, like, this is the God that, stops the waves from consuming us every single day. This is the God that does, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
almost like,
it's
we don't want to
astounding.
trouble him. That's a small matter. Like, I'll deal with it myself.
Yeah.
That type of thing. I don't want to trouble you, Lord. But really, like, it's probably the wrong approach. Well, it is the wrong approach.
Well, it is, because I think the best way to describe Christianity is its dependence.
Yeah.
It's dependency. I always say, I don't know how people go through life by themselves without God. I depend on Him every single second of the day.
Now, knowing what I know, honestly, no idea either.
Well, one way you depended on Him in a very different way to what a lot of people would is just recently, a few years back, you made a massive life change career-wise.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's huge for anyone to do at any age. But for you to do with a family that you're supporting, you're taking care of, and with years of experience, you went into something completely different. Can you explain to us what was going on?
So I left school, got into real estate for a few years with a really, really good office and a great boss. Like a great teacher, sales and negotiating, all that sort of stuff. Really, really good. I took that on to, I got into finance. I took everything I learned there into finance in my cousin's company at the time. That was doing really well. It was just like a up and coming company doing really, really well. And he's just said to me once, he goes, Mick, why don't you come over? Like, come over, I'll teach you the ropes. I'll teach you home loans and finance, and then maybe go out on your own, like open up like a franchise, like a licensee branch. I was like, wow, okay, that sounds good. And I was probably 22 at the time. And I think I was engaged. I think we were engaged at the time. And I thought, okay, this is probably the time to do it. Don't have kids. We've got low expenses. And I was taking a pay cut to go from the real estate office I was in to go with him. So jumped in and just remember loving it right away. Just loved the industry. Like, it was a mortgage management company, so they did home loans. They would borrow money from the money markets, rebrand it. So, it was like white label, which is like rebranding it into your own product and selling it to the public. Sort of like how Wizard Home Loans was back in the day. And we were a non-bank lender. Such an exciting industry. So good. And I loved it. I actually thrived in it. Like, thank God. Like, it was just it was such a great move. And my cousin, who took me under his wings as well, we'd go out every Wednesday for dinner. I blame him as well for the weight that I've put on. But, and he would just educate me and teach me. And
that's awesome.
It was so good. It was so good. And probably it would have been about 03. I went out on my own. So I was young. I was, 23, 24. Wow. Went out on my own, opened up my own business under his banner. And just, man, we just, thank God. It was such a good industry. Just did really, really well. Like, it was just at that time as well where finance was
peak.
It was easy to land, So, but it was great. It was a great time. So I thought I'd retire in this industry, and I just, things change over the years, sort of moved into the financial planning world, and sort of just kept expanding a little bit, got into the brokering side where you're dealing directly with the banks. I get to, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Actually, probably 4 years ago, and I just remember I would often pray, Lord, when it's time for me to get out of the industry and just, sell my business, just you got to make it clear, please, because I love what I do. I really, really love what I do. Make it clear for me. And I remember back in, I think it would have been 17, we got back from an overseas trip, went to one of those sort of conferences that they have every few months. And it was just from there, I just felt like the things that I was hearing, I just kind of just felt like, God's just saying, Mick, start thinking about selling. Mick, start thinking about selling the business. Get out of the industry. Get out of the industry. And it just kept
hitting you.
Yeah, but, and one thing I learned over the years as well, and still not great at it, but listening to God when He's talking.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might think He's talking to you, and maybe He's not. It's just us. But then sometimes He is, and we could actually ignore it. So I sort of started.
So sorry, before you do get into that, how do you decipher the two? For you, anyway.
For me, look, I would get counsel from friends, meeting up with Pastor Mansell at the time, just, my mates, my circle,
Yep.
my mates like, Paulie, Pete, those sort of boys, and just really like picking people's brains and, listening to sermons as well and, researching, how to know when you're listening to God's voice. And I was speaking to our mate Danny about it, Danny Kay, just the other day about it. And one thing that I really picked up was when God does speak to you, he's going to often speak to you in patterns, like through patterns, like things will come your way. You might be sitting down listening to a sermon and all of a sudden this sermon is smack bang, like it's just right on what you're going through. And it's like, whoa, man, like is this whole sermon just for me? Like there's 200 people here. Is this just for me, this sermon? Or I might get a phone call from someone. And I remember that, I'd get a phone call from someone. And God's not always going to use a Christian. He might use somebody else just to put something, on our hearts, you know what I mean? And that's, I got a phone call from a mate saying, I'm getting out of the industry, Mick, you got to get out. And he had no idea I was thinking about it at the time. And I was like, well, okay, that's from the Lord too. So it's just little things like that. Just, again, counsel from friends, just speaking to, and just weighing it up. And obviously with my wife, sitting down going, look, this is what I'm thinking. Yeah. I don't want to do it though. I did not want to do it. Loved what I'd done, like I loved the industry. I had built a nice little business, thank God. And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to sell, but I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make a decision. Do I ignore what I'm hearing and possibly pay the consequences later? Or do I listen
to God's voice and
to God's voice and reap the benefits later and maybe see the blessings later on?
So when do you pull the trigger?
I just did it. I just went, okay, I'm doing it. And I just remember sitting there, I typed up the email to, the organisation I was with, and it's like, I'm going to do it. And I promise, man, I just sat there. I reckon that email sat there for about half an hour, 45 minutes. I just want to press send. I just wouldn't do it. But then I just went, you know what, Lord, I'm sorry, I'm just going to do it. You've gotten me this far, and I just pressed it.
Wow.
And obviously, got the wheels in motion, I guess, And
then it happened.
And then, like, cut a long story short, like, when I actually just went, wow, like, I was definitely supposed to do this, was probably 6 months after I had, shut shop. They came and took all of my files, because of the whole transfer. You're transferring your files over to another organisation. And I get a phone call from my cousin, and he goes, Mick, did you see the newspaper? See what happened? And I'm like, no. He goes, The Australian, quickly, Google it. And I jump on, and they're saying about how they're no longer going to buy the financial planning businesses of their financial planners, this organisation.
Wow.
But they would, but at a much reduced value. And I'm just like, whoa. I could not believe it at the time. It's like, Lord, are you serious? Like, wow, thank you so much.
That is insane.
Man, like that's when I just went, like, yeah.
I get it.
I get it now. Like, at the time, he's not going to make it easy for us, eh? Yeah. He's not going to make it easy and go, you're going to do it because blah, 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 blah.
This is all going to happen. You're going to love life. Yeah.
No. It's like, you want to trust me, Mick? This is what you got to do. And I'm going to keep sort of giving you your little, the voices, from other people. But you want to listen. If you don't want to listen, that's fine.
Yeah, and you'll reap the benefits or you'll reap the repercussions of it.
Man, and that was when I just went, Lord, thank you so much. And obviously, other benefits too. I was at home having dinner with the family for the first time. Like, I'd never have dinner with the family. It was
just constantly working,
Because I'd be home late. Yeah. Get home 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, because people would want to come and see me in the evening. So there's a lot of benefits, that came from it. And then I had to get out of the industry.
So where'd you move to?
Man, totally different industry. Moved into fire.
So from finance to fire.
Finance to fire. Yeah, finance to fire.
Why? How? What went down?
Pete and George, from Pete Fadden, Georgie, Abu Haida said, Mick, come on. So look, Pete's version is he felt sorry for me that I'm now jobless. I can't feed my family.
I don't think that's the case at all, mate.
He said, Mick, let's bring you off the streets and give you a job. That's his version.
Yeah.
My version is, Mick, I need your help. Come and help me out. I'm dying. I can't do this without you. I need you.
Well, he hasn't told his version. He already came on the show, so he didn't tell his version. Tell your version.
My versions are. That's it. I get the last say.
That's it.
But look, it was just through conversation, and at the time I was going to get into real estate. I started doing my real estate license through your organisation at the time. AB hooked me up as well, and I was going to get into that, and yeah, man, like Pete actually, we're just having a chat, and he said, "Mick, why don't you just come and just do some work with me?" Like, because I was just going to sort of do some work on the side, and just come and do some work with me, and it kind of just went from there. And yeah, first it was just like,
what am I doing?
Yeah, at first, I'm still like, what am I doing?
But do you see God working in it?
Yeah, man. Like, just working with other Christians and just like, just working with good mates and, like the industry is, like, I'm not used to, like, I'm still 3 years on, and sometimes I just scratch my head and just go, like this, the whole maintenance side of things. I work with tradies. Very different breed.
Very
Sorry
different
for any
breed.
tradies listening.
I worked in that industry for 2 years, and it's a very different one. And fire guys are like full on.
Yeah.
They're full on.
Ask your dad.
Yeah. No, but that's awesome. So what would you say to someone that's probably thinking about something like this right now?
What,
God's putting
making a decision?
God's putting something on their heart to say, listen, it's time for a big change.
You know what I say? Honestly, get counsel to make sure, like, I would say understand the difference, like understand how God speaks to us.
Okay.
Back in the day, Moses heard
God's
God
voice
audibly.
Yeah.
We don't have that these days. So he was going to speak to us in a different way. So I would say to, young and old, like, and even now, I still need to sort of continue improving that area too, to go, is that the Lord speaking to me, or is it just my mind? You know what I mean? Or is it Satan? You know what I mean? Like, it's knowing, like learning to understand when the Lord is speaking to us and when he's not. But if you ascertain that, it is God speaking to you and pushing you into a different direction, as much as you don't want it, do it.
Faith is a big part of that. Yeah,
100%.
And I think to understand God's voice and to know that it is him speaking, I think that really does depend on your relationship with him.
Yeah.
If you're far from him, it's not going to be easy to hear his voice.
Yeah, you're right.
But if you're in his word, if you're praying, if you're at one with the Spirit and you're wanting to grow, it's going to change things up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Entirely. Well, Mick, let's close this off, and we're going to close it off the only way we know how to here.
How's that?
I'm going to chuck you into a DeLorean, just like that thing over there.
A what?
A DeLorean. I'm going to chuck you in a time machine, send you back 10 years.
10 years? Oh, man,
That's
I was so much skinnier, man. 10 years ago.
You got one
Can we
piece
do
of
that?
advice to give young Mick. What's the one piece of advice you're giving him to help him get through the next 10 years?
Stay at the gym.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
And don't eat those packets of chips at 8 o'clock at night.
I don't know if 42-year-old Mick's listening to that, let alone 32-year-old Mick.
Yeah, man, good question, eh? Where do you come up with these questions?
Stumped
Ray?
another one, ladies
Bro,
and gents. Every single week. I love it.
10 years ago.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one because you've got to think back to what 32-year-old Mick's doing at that time.
Yeah.
What he needs to get through the next 10.
I would probably say, probably just in line with what we're talking about, you put it beautifully. Like, you're not going to hear God's voice if you're not
In tune with him.
Through prayer, through reading your Bible, and I would probably say, like, on a spiritual side, I would say stick to your Bible reading, stay close that way. That might be a boring answer, but I just know, knowing me, that's what I would probably say. Just focus on that. And then just giving time to the family, the kids, obviously the wife, got to keep her cup full.
It's those simple things, man.
Yeah, man.
And it's those, I think that's a great point because it's those simple things that we forget about. And as the day-to-day goes on and things get busy, things get tough and just constantly running, you forget how important it is to do the simple things. Read your Bible, spend time with God, spend time with the family. Just enjoy those quiet moments because Life's so busy. Man.
Because I'm telling you, I could find 50 reasons a day to not read my Bible, not get down and pray. But I know that when I don't have time, when I don't give him the time, but you also got to work. I don't know if this, if I mean, I think you and I spoke about this recently as well, actually, that you got to, like, you were saying that you often pray in the car while you're driving.
Yeah.
That's your time sometimes with him.
Yeah.
You know, because you're in a rush getting ready in the morning. So you're in the car driving and just talking to him.
Yeah.
You know, so I've got my podcasts. So, like, you know, I love listening to end time, things regarding the end times. And there's, 10-minute devotionals that you can listen to. Some really good people out there, you know.
There's Have a Chat with Ray and Stat and talk to me.
So, yeah. You got your FBC
That's it,
links,
mate.
like your little
But
clips that you
you're
put
right.
together.
Yeah, it's that time. And I think it's utilizing your time wisely and using it in the right way that's going to be beneficial to you and to your relationship.
Whatever
with
it
God.
is, just spend that time with him, you know.
Well, mate, thank you for spending time with me today.
Bro, thanks for having me.
Ladies and gents, thank you once again for joining us on Talk to Me. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, subscribe to all the Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Mick, thanks for talking to me, man.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.